Once upon a time, there was a young dragon called Simon who lived in a cave on a mountain far, far away. Every week, Simon and his mummy visited Grandpa Drake, who was Mummy's daddy, and lived on his own in a little cave near the top of the mountain. Grandpa Drake would say, "So, Simon, found anything interesting lately?" And Simon would show him a fairy's tooth or a coloured pebble. And Grandpa Drake would say, "Ooh," and "Ah," and then tell marvellous stories about having parties with the fairies, or about the time when he found a pirate's treasure chest full of coloured pebbles. Time passed, and as Simon got older, he noticed that Grandpa Drake seemed to be getting very forgetful. Sometimes he would say, "Where is that book I was reading?" when Simon could see that it was on the table by his chair. Simon would say, "Silly Grandpa," and Mummy would laugh and say that everyone got muddled when they got older. Sometimes when Simon went to visit, Grandpa Drake didn't know who he was, and one time he didn't know who Simon's mummy was. He kept saying, "Where's Lucy?" And when Simon said, "But Grandma Lucy isn't here anymore," Grandpa Drake just got angry and said, "Who are you? What have you done with Lucy?" It was as if he had forgotten that she wasn't alive anymore. But other days he would say, "Hello, Simon, how are you today?" And everything seemed normal. Grandpa Drake had worked in a clothing shop when he was younger, and it seemed that the only thing that he could still do was to sew costumes. Big costumes, little costumes, simple costumes, elaborate costumes, lots and lots of costumes. Simon thought it was very odd that Grandpa Drake couldn't make himself a cup of tea, but could transform some grey cloth into an elephant. Mind you, sometimes Simon found the cloth in some strange places. When he told his mummy, she said that Grandpa had trouble remembering things and that Simon had to be extra kind to him. Then she told him that Grandpa Drake was going to come and live with them for a while. Simon was so excited. He would come home bursting with stories of what had happened at school and who he sat next to on the bus and what homework he had. Sometimes Grandpa Drake would laugh and tell him stories of when he had been at school. But sometimes he would frown and say, "Be quiet. Who are you? Stop running about." And Simon would be sad and confused. Sometimes when Simon came home, Grandpa Drake wasn't there, and a neighbour would send a message saying, "Grandpa Drake is in our cave," or "I've just seen Grandpa Drake buying some cloth in town," or one day, "Did you know that Grandpa Drake is playing with pebbles in the stream?" And Simon's mum would run out to fetch him home again. One day, Simon's mum said to him that Grandpa Drake wasn't going to be living with them anymore. So now, every week they visited Grandpa Drake, and sometimes he would know who they were, but mostly he didn't. He was sometimes happy to see them though, and they would chat about sewing or pebbles or fairies. He was sometimes sad, and they couldn't say anything to cheer him up. He liked sewing though, and they would bring him cloth and needles and thread so that he could make costumes, even though no one wore costumes much anymore. When it was time to leave, Simon would say, "I'm just going to find some pebbles," and go outside. Grandpa Drake would sit by the window and forget that Simon had been to visit him, but he would remember having a happy time and would stay happy until Simon came to visit again.